At precisely 11:45 a.m. London time on December 14, the palace gates remained physically closed, yet virtually wide open. A carefully worded press release, stamped with the seal of the Lord Chamberlain, was issued to every major broadcaster and foreign correspondent. What was expected to be a simple update on the Princess of Wales's post-treatment recovery evolved instantly into a declaration of institutional fragility. Following a recent series of medical reviews, the Princess of Wales's medical team has confirmed that her cancer has shown signs of recurrence. Catherine would step away from all public-facing duties indefinitely. What followed was a moment of stunned silence, a hush across newsrooms, palace corridors, and public squares across the United Kingdom. Catherine, Princess of Wales, 43, the quiet symbol of the modern, compassionate monarchy, once again found herself caught in a medical storm that no amount of composure or curated imagery could shelter her from. The previous cancer diagnosis, revealed in that deeply personal video in March 2024, had ignited widespread public solidarity. The palace had assured the public that her chemotherapy was merely precautionary, following a successful abdominal surgery. But insiders knew that the language used by the palace was intentionally wrapped in soft velvet. Now, that velvet has been violently pulled back, exposing the monarchy's deepest vulnerability. Just weeks before this devastating news, Catherine had appeared publicly during the Remembrance Day service on November 9. She stood poised, radiant, beside Queen Camilla, a single red poppy pinned above her heart. Royal watchers had optimistically called it her quiet comeback. Yet, behind the scenes, fresh MRI scans conducted on November 27 at an undisclosed private facility had revealed new irregularities near the original malignancy. Biopsies performed days later confirmed the truly unthinkable. The cancer had not only survived the previous chemotherapy, but had metastasized. It was actively spreading again. The immediate reaction from the inner circle was one of protective shutdown. Prince William cancelled all scheduled engagements through Christmas, sharing a handwritten note with his staff that simply read, "My place is with Catherine and our children. All else can wait." King Charles III, still managing his own cancer treatment, rushed to Kensington Palace. He was visibly shaken, viewing Catherine as the embodiment of everything he wants. The monarchy to be seen as calm, modern, beautiful. Her illness, for Charles, struck at the very heart of the monarchy's emotional core. The core was failing. However, amidst this wave of national grief and internal distress, Queen Camilla began what one insider called a discreet re-expansion of her public role. She saw the vacuum forming, noted a senior royal aide. Camilla, who has never been one to let a gap in visibility go unfilled, immediately positioned herself to fill the void left by the absent future queen. This was not the act of a grief-stricken daughter-in-law, but the cold calculation of a monarch dedicated to the appearance of continuity. On the very morning of the medical announcement, Camilla was photographed leaving Clarence House dressed in a bold crimson ensemble, a stark and deliberate contrast to the somber navy typically worn during health-related updates. She told reporters outside the venue, "We must all rally together to ensure continuity and strength in these times." Her words were ostensibly about Catherine, but her upbeat delivery hinted at something far more performative, a subtle, calculated move to seize control of the spotlight. Hours later, the subtle positioning hardened into clear, actionable institutional maneuvers. Palace staff confirmed that Queen Camilla would begin presiding over several of Catherine's upcoming charity appearances, including a cancer research gala originally scheduled for late February 2026. This move, though approved by King Charles and Prince William under the dire medical exigencies, immediately created shockwaves within Kensington Palace. The optics were undeniable and unforgivable to many of Catherine's longtime staff. Camilla has never championed cancer-related causes. Yet, suddenly, she was stepping in to lead the Unity Against Cancer campaign, an initiative that was, emotionally and intellectually, the creation of Catherine herself. One Kensington Palace advisor noted that the takeover feels opportunistic. Catherine had drafted the campaign outline during the summer while undergoing her final chemotherapy sessions. She had sought action, not sympathy, wanting every British household to feel empowered regarding early detection. For the palace machine to allow this calculated appropriation of her most personal work felt, to some, like a boardroom hostile takeover during a funeral. The tension escalated swiftly. By 5 p.m. on the same day, the palace confirmed Queen Camilla would lead the royal delegation at the Royal Variety performance on December 18. This engagement was also originally scheduled for Catherine, while the official explanation was straightforward that a senior royal must step in. The speed and tone of her reappearance did not go unnoticed. Camilla was reportedly visibly pleased during internal meetings, suggesting to her aides that the crown still needs a queen to be seen. She wasn't wrong, a former courtier admitted, but the execution was widely seen as premature. The internal power struggle was further exposed when staff at Clarence House, the Queen's official residence, leaked that Camilla was preparing to consolidate her own schedule in 2026, including launching a new patronage drive under her own name. Crucially, the focus areas were those previously occupied by Catherine, such as children's literacy and family care. At Kensington Palace, the atmosphere immediately grew tense. Despite William's focus being solely on Catherine, one insider remarked, "Even he knows this is becoming a power moment for others." The pushback was quiet but firm. Princess Anne, ever the stoic and pragmatic royal, reportedly privately advised King Charles that concentration, not duplication, is the key to stability. Anne was clearly challenging Camilla's rapid attempts to represent multiple causes simultaneously. The internal Windsor equation was shifting faster than expected, turning Catherine's illness, a deeply personal and tragic event, into a crucible of loyalty, ambition, and institutional survival. The public was quick to pick up on the shifting optics. The next day's headlines were brutal: Catherine and chemotherapy, Camilla in couture, wrong queen, wrong tone, headlined The Guardian, which criticized her tone-deaf attempt to reclaim royal relevance at the worst possible moment. The public consensus was stark, captured by one viral comment: "Catherine gave us dignity in grief. Camilla gives us strategy in a vacuum." Not the same. The public sympathy belonged entirely to Catherine, while the spotlight, ominously, was up for grabs. While Queen Camilla aggressively sought to fill the void with calculated public appearances, the monarchy quietly began to lean on two of its most consistent, yet least headline-grabbing figures: Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh. These two women, long dismissed as supporting players in the elaborate royal theatre, suddenly found themselves the central force stabilizing the public-facing monarchy. Princess Anne, the archetype of royal duty and stoicism, was the first to appear publicly after the devastating health announcement. In true Anne fashion, she made no comment, arriving at a naval base in Portsmouth 2 hours ahead of schedule. She walked past the press with the discipline of a trained soldier, stone-faced but not cold, conveying the gravity of someone who had seen too much grief and refused to show hers. Anne's response to the crisis was to offer service, not performance. She reportedly refused a media request to allow cameras into a planned hospital visit, stating unequivocally, "Leave the cameras outside." Anne's role quickly shifted from ceremonial to deeply practical. She reportedly agreed to temporarily assume 5 of Catherine's pending patronage appearances, including high-profile visits to the National Portrait Gallery and the Anna Freud Center, organizations which Catherine had nurtured for years. Her method was concentration, directly contrasting Camilla's duplicative strategy. In fact, Princess Anne reportedly privately pushed back on Camilla's rapid move to represent multiple causes simultaneously, advising the king that concentration, not duplication, is the key to stability. If Anne is the monarchy's reliable steel, Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, emerged as its quiet silk. Sophie quickly established herself as the quiet connector behind the palace gates. She made personal calls to directors of charities Catherine once championed, assuring them that their visibility would not vanish. One mental health foundation executive noted that Sophie spoke like a sister, not a royal, just a woman who understood. Sophie and Catherine have long shared a personal bond rooted in mutual trust and motherhood. Those close to Sophie confirmed she was stepping into these high-profile roles, not out of ambition, but out of absolute necessity. The public mood, meanwhile, grew increasingly restive over Camilla's actions. The Times published an op-ed titled "Too Soon to Step In," questioning the optics of Camilla's sudden flurry of appearances. Even more inflammatory was a leaked exchange between a Clarence House press officer and a cancer campaigner, in which the phrase, "Her Majesty wishes to realign the Windsor women's public focus" appeared. Though the palace quickly called it a miscommunication, the damage was done. Loyalty to Catherine remained absolute among the British public. A YouGov flash poll conducted shortly after the announcement showed a dramatic result. 83% of respondents preferred Princess Catherine over Queen Camilla as a public royal figure, with 72% stating they would be uncomfortable if Camilla were to assume any of Catherine's symbolic duties. Social media echoed this sentiment, with the hashtag number Catherine Our Future Queen trending globally amidst stories of support and growing frustration at the perceived opportunism of other royal figures. The public's hardening perception of Queen Camilla was not just reflected in polls and social media. It quickly fueled an escalation of tension behind the closed doors of the palace. The leaked audio on December 17 from an internal meeting between Camilla and charity coordinators was the definitive turning point. Camilla allegedly asked the highly insensitive question, "How many of Catherine's appearances can I reasonably take over without causing fuss?" The internal backlash was instantaneous and severe. Sources close to Kensington Palace reported that Prince William was furious. His primary focus was, and is, his wife and children, to preserve some sense of normalcy for 3 children who can feel their world shifting. Yet, even while serving as Catherine's shield, he was forced to deal with the political fallout of his stepmother's calculated moves. The speed and the tone of Camilla's reappearance struck at the heart of the family's efforts to maintain dignity in their private grief. The pushback from the inner circle was not only vocal, but strategically visible. Princess Anne, in a quiet yet powerful display of loyalty, reportedly refused to join Camilla's scheduled Christmas luncheon for military families. Insiders claim the citation of schedule conflicts was fabricated to send a direct and unmistakable message to Clarence House. Anne's actions reinforced the emerging battle lines. The loyalty of the old guard, Anne, Sophie, William, against the perceived opportunism of the new queen, Camilla. In response to the mounting public and internal criticism, Queen Camilla's public appearances did slow down. However, the institutional damage lingered. Inside the palace, her team was reportedly revisiting all scheduled engagements, and King Charles III personally requested that Camilla step back from any patronages previously associated with Catherine to avoid confusion. As one senior aide diplomatically put it, the aim was to prevent the public from seeing Camilla as an outright replacement. The palace itself responded to the crisis by quietly re-centralizing control of the narrative. As of December 20, all Catherine-related press briefings were officially moved back to Kensington Palace, effectively sidelining Clarence House staff entirely. This subtle but surgical shift signaled a dramatic tightening of the royal narrative, aimed at ensuring that Catherine's hard-won legacy was not diluted by optics or overreach. The mood within the royal household was described as surgical. Every photo was weighed, every sentence double-checked. The palace realized they were not just managing a medical crisis, they were managing royal survival itself. The sympathy of the public was undoubtedly with Catherine, but the spotlight, as one source ominously noted, was truly up for grabs. The tragic, deeply personal illness had become a stark test of loyalty, ambition, and institutional preservation. The crisis forced Prince William into a role no amount of royal grooming could have prepared him for. Not merely the heir or the statesman, but a husband desperately holding his family together. In the weeks leading up to the public statement, William's schedule had already begun thinning, with private meetings replacing foreign travel. The reason was now painfully clear. William was operating on 2 crucial fronts. He remained the public heir, but privately, he was a father striving to preserve some sense of normalcy for his 3 children. who could instinctively feel their world shifting beneath them. Those closest to him painted a picture of deep commitment and emotional strain. His life was now defined by early morning school runs done without security convoys, whispered bedtime stories, and long nights spent reviewing complex medical reports right beside Catherine's bedside. William had essentially become a full-time caregiver, even while the spotlight continued to demand his public presence. His commitment was underscored by a critical decision made just before the announcement. William formally pulled out of the January 2026 Economic Forum in Davos. This event would have been his most prominent solo international appearance to date, but he sacrificed it for his family. A simple statement from Kensington Palace confirmed his choice. The Prince of Wales will remain in the United Kingdom to support his wife and family during an ongoing health matter. He made no apology, understanding that none was needed. Protecting Prince George, 12, Princess Charlotte, 9, and Prince Louis, 6, became William and Catherine's paramount priority. According to palace sources, the family adopted an age-appropriate transparency model, carefully advised by child psychologists from Great Ormond Street Hospital. The children were being shielded, but importantly, not lied to. They knew their mother was unwell and that the medicine made her tired, requiring rest. The word cancer was spoken, but without the fear typically attached to it, in an effort to contain the emotional fallout. The children reacted with quiet maturity and affection. George, the eldest, was described as quiet and observant, beginning to ask his father deeper questions about the hospital visits and the duration of his mother's illness. One courtier emotionally recalled finding a handwritten card George had left under his mother's teacup. It simply read, "I'll be good today. Love, G." Charlotte, ever perceptive, took on the role of a small guardian, bringing tissues to her mother's bedside and firmly scolding a staff member who whispered too loudly near Catherine's room. "Mommy needs peace," she had commanded. Louis, the youngest, remained confused but affectionate, constantly asking if Mommy will be better by Christmas. The importance of William's role as the emotional bedrock was powerfully articulated by King Charles III himself. During a recent lunch at Windsor, Charles, speaking from the painful experience of his own diagnosis, quietly told William, "You're not just her husband right now, you're her shield, and theirs too." This charge solidified William's new, non-negotiable mission, to protect the heart of his family against both the illness and the intense public pressure surrounding the crown. Amidst his own ongoing battle with prostate cancer, King Charles III drew closer to his grandchildren than ever before. In recent weeks, the 6-year-old monarch made multiple private visits to Adelaide Cottage, the family home, often arriving unannounced. His goal was not to assert authority or protocol, but simply to read stories or sit in the garden with Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. He didn't say much. One family nanny confided, "He just sits with them. Sometimes that's all they need." Charles's own diagnosis made him painfully aware of the immense emotional toll that serious illness takes, not just on the patient, but on the entire family unit. At a time when the institution desperately depends on his leadership, Charles made a deliberate decision to prioritize his family's needs. He delegated several ceremonial duties to his siblings, Prince Edward and Princess Anne, specifically to allow himself more private time with William and the children. The king's emotional guidance to William, "You're not just her husband right now, you're her shield, and theirs too," was a moment of profound paternal connection and a clear charge of duty. Beyond the king's emotional support, Princess Anne, the ever-pragmatic royal, became an absolutely crucial pillar of support within the inner circle. Anne's assistance was not limited to public-facing duties. She offered silent, practical help where it was most needed. It was Anne who personally arranged additional private tutors for George and Charlotte when their mother's condition prevented her from helping with homework. She didn't ask anyone, a palace scheduler noted. She just did it. That's Anne. Anne's quiet competency was invaluable when William needed help briefing Catherine's patronages about her temporary step back. She personally called 3 charity heads herself, not to assert dominance, but to offer calm, firm guidance. In these moments of institutional fragility, Anne emerged as the monarchy's most dependable compass, offering unwavering direction while others flinched or attempted opportunistic grabs for the spotlight. Her presence was a silent, unshakable challenge to Queen Camilla's aggressive expansion strategy. Inside Adelaide Cottage, the home of the Wales family, the atmosphere had dramatically shifted. Staff now rotated with tighter discretion. Doctors came and went at irregular hours. The festive preparations, which were once Catherine's favorite project with the children, were this year done entirely by hand-picked aides under William's instruction. William's commitment to maintaining a fragile sense of normalcy was absolute. He instructed staff to follow Catherine's exact notes from the previous year, specifically requesting that they put the same lights on the staircase. As one staff member whispered, she wanted the children would feel safer if things looked familiar. The announcement of Princess Catherine's cancer recurrence didn't just stir the United Kingdom, it sparked an emotional chain reaction across the globe, instantly transcending the boundaries of monarchy, politics, and borders. Within hours, world leaders issued statements, some official, others heartbreakingly personal. In Canada, where the Prince and Princess of Wales have long held a deep public connection, Prime Minister Elodie Tremble held back tears in a live interview, calling Catherine a symbol of quiet dignity in a noisy world. Tremble added poignantly that her illness was not just Britain's loss, it's a heartbreak for every young woman who saw strength in silence. Across Europe, the gravity of the news was immediately recognized. President Emmanuel Macron of France ordered the lights of the Eiffel Tower dimmed for 1 hour in honor of La Princesse du Courage. Even across the Atlantic, Vice President Elena Martinez of the United States referred to Catherine during a cancer awareness speech in Chicago, stating, "She reminds us that even the strongest can fall, but they do not fall alone." Social media again became the collective voice of global sympathy. The hashtag number, Stand With Catherine, trended in over 60 countries, featuring an outpouring of love, personal stories, and posts from people battling their own illnesses who were directly inspired by Catherine's quiet bravery. For the charities she championed, however, the loss of Catherine's physical presence was far more than symbolic. It became an operational disaster. At Place 2B, one of Catherine's flagship mental health organizations, the princess had personally shaped the annual curriculum on emotional resilience for school children. A staff member, speaking anonymously, was devastated. "She didn't just attend our events, she rewrote our handbook. She helped us get into 2,000 new schools. She changed our reach, and now she's suddenly gone." The repercussions quickly hit the financial core. At the Royal Foundation Center for Early Childhood, trustees met in an emergency session after the announcement, concerned not only about visibility, but also about the potential for funding shortfalls. One donor was reported to have bluntly asked, "If Catherine's not involved, what are we actually funding?" Despite official palace reassurances that these organizations would remain under royal patronage, internal records showed a sharp drop in sponsor engagement within the first 48 hours of the statement. The charity ecosystem built around Catherine's personal vision was facing what one executive called an identity crisis wrapped in grief. While public affection for Catherine deepened across the globe, Queen Camilla's reputation was simultaneously and quietly fraying. Her accelerated return to royal engagements, particularly those previously tied to Catherine, had not gone unnoticed, and public patience was clearly thinning. The crucial test came at the Royal Variety performance on December 18th. Camilla arrived solo, dressed in a bright teal gown, and, notably, was smiling broadly for the cameras. The optics were catastrophic. The headlines the following morning were brutal, reflecting the severe public disconnect with her actions. "Catherine in chemotherapy, Camilla in couture," read the Daily Mirror. "Wrong queen, wrong tone," headlined The Guardian, which sharply criticized her tone-deaf attempt to reclaim royal relevance at the worst possible moment. The backlash was immediate and intense. Sources inside Clarence House confirmed that Camilla was explicitly warned by her senior media advisor, Thomas Landon, to pull back from public-facing appearances for at least 2 weeks. That advice was reportedly ignored. Her Majesty continued to adhere to her deeply held belief that the monarchy must be seen. However, The immediate problem was that, in this moment of raw grief, people only wanted to see Catherine or express their grief for her. Worse still, the leaked audio of her internal meeting on December 17, where she asked how many of Catherine's appearances she could reasonably take over without causing fuss, ensured the backlash was sustained. The internal reaction was equally decisive. Kensington Palace sources confirmed that Prince William was furious. Furthermore, Princess Anne reportedly refused to join Camilla's scheduled Christmas luncheon for military families, citing schedule conflicts that insiders believed were fabricated specifically to send a message. The institution, finally realizing the severity of the damage, was forced to step in and apply institutional brakes. While the palace issued no official correction or comment regarding Camilla's actions, officials quietly began re-centralizing control of all public schedules. This included the surgical move of all Catherine-related press briefings back to Kensington Palace, effectively sidelining Clarence House staff entirely. This shift, though subtle and carried out behind closed doors, signaled a decisive tightening of the narrative. The goal was clear: to ensure Catherine's powerful human legacy was not diluted by the opportunistic optics or overreach of others. The tension remained palpable. A source close to a senior royal described the internal mood as surgical. They were not just managing a medical crisis, but quite literally managing royal survival. As Christmas approached, Buckingham Palace remained draped in traditional festive decor. Yet the truth was starkly undeniable. The heart of the monarchy was beating under immense strain, and it was beating slower. Princess Catherine's indefinite withdrawal, due to the recurrence of aggressive cancer, had done more than throw the Wales family into emotional turmoil. It had shaken the operational stability of the modern British monarchy. This was not a crisis defined by scandal, but by illness, and yet it demanded the same urgent institutional recalibration. Prince William, now shouldering the dual burden of intensive emotional caregiving and increased state responsibility, was reportedly in daily communication with the prime ministers of both Canada and the UK regarding upcoming constitutional events. According to leaked documents reviewed by trusted royal correspondents, William had been briefed on partial succession procedures. These private briefings included the temporary reallocation of Queen consort functions and possible regency steps. One insider clarified the dire need for these contingency plans. They are not preparing for abdication, but they are preparing for acceleration. The monarchy was now operating with two compromised senior royals, King Charles III and Princess Catherine. The symbolic implications were clear. The monarchy was in transition, and that transition threatened to be far quicker than previously imagined. King Charles's long-lauded vision for a slimmed monarchy, a modern and cost-efficient approach, was now exposing its glaring, fatal flaw. With Catherine withdrawn, Prince Harry and Meghan exiled, Prince Andrew disgraced, and Charles himself unwell, the roster of working senior royals had been reduced to a dangerously small number. As one historian noted, the working roster was essentially 5 people: William, Anne, Edward, Sophie, and Camilla. That's not a dynasty, that's a committee. The absence of a younger female royal with Catherine's undeniable resonance created a profound symbolic void. Consequently, whispers of bringing forward Lady Louise Windsor, daughter of Edward and Sophie, or even giving honorary support roles to Princess Beatrice or Zara Tindall, ideas previously dismissed, had resurfaced. The consensus was stark. The slimmed monarchy works until people start getting sick, said former Royal Press Secretary Alison Y. Then you need more hands and hearts. Queen Camilla's public appearances had slowed after the intense criticism, but the damage to her public image lingered severely. Polling conducted by Ipsos Mori between December 18 to 21 showed a sharp 12-point drop in Camilla's public approval, largely among women over 45. Inside the palace, the king himself personally requested that Camilla step back from any patronages previously associated with Catherine. The public's perception was now rigidly fixed. Camilla is not a replacement. Catherine is irreplaceable. Outside the palace gates, the public response remained emotionally raw. Candlelight vigils continued to form in both London and Edinburgh. Tens of thousands of cards, gifts, and letters were delivered to Kensington Palace following the announcement. But underneath the collective mourning lay a deeper expectation, a call for genuine truth, connection, and humanity from the institution. One handwritten letter taped to the palace gates captured the betrayal the public felt. "You told us she was getting better. You didn't tell us she was fading." For years, Catherine had embodied the careful, fragile balance of tradition and relatability. She was royal, yet somehow still felt reachable. With her now tragically absent from public life, the public was forced to re-evaluate their entire relationship to the institution itself. Citizens demanded to feel like they were part of this family, not just spectators to grief. This profound emotional investment came with a non-negotiable demand for more transparency and more inclusion. For the monarchy to survive its current fragility, it would need to adapt faster than it ever had before. Whether Catherine returns to public life full-time or not, her quiet influence has already fundamentally redefined the image of modern royalty. She is no longer simply a symbol of beauty or grace. She is now a symbol of endurance. Behind the scenes, her vital work continues. Kensington Palace confirmed she still reviews documents from the Royal Foundation, signs off on materials for her early years initiative, and participates in small virtual meetings when her health permits. A friend affirmed that she hasn't quit. She's just fighting the hardest battle of her life away from cameras. The princess's long-term legacy is already taking shape. It is expected that a new fund under her name will be established in 2026, dedicated to supporting cancer awareness in young women and mothers. The working title, The Rose Initiative, references both her favorite flower and the quiet, enduring strength it represents. There will be no festive Christmas broadcast from Catherine this year. There may be no spring appearances. Her chair at state dinners will remain empty. Her voice, once so vital in shaping the monarchy's softer edge, is now heard only in private. But her presence endures in the charities that refuse to let her vision fade, in the children she continues to raise, with kindness, even from her bed, and in the hearts of a nation that has watched, mourned, and now waits not just for updates, but for hope. As 2026 dawns, the monarchy stands on profoundly unsteady ground. But within that uncertainty lies its most human moment. A mother is sick, a husband is trying, a crown is heavier than ever.